Marty, thank you so much for joining us today. You guys at Blackdot have a history of looking a little bit further into the commercial equation. I'm just very interested to hear a little bit more about some of your latest findings and what the average executive really needs to know.
Most of what we've been focusing on the last year and a half is really around what does a good frontline sales rep quantifiably look like, and then secondly, how do you actually build more of those sort of reps? So how do you reduce variability in your rep population and really build a critical mass of high performers who are capable of growing market share in their individual territories? So that's been an interesting process for us to understand what competencies set reps up for success, being able to measure and quantify which of those competencies really move the needle. And then the other exciting bit that we've had a lot of traction around at the conference this year has been what's a good first-line sales manager actually need to do to develop more of that. So we've got some really clear and some quite definitive views on where the upside opportunity is the greatest.
So could you give us one or two sort of practical tips for the average head of the sales force that
Sure.
they could perhaps get on with right away?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at two levels. The first level for reps, one of the big things we've seen come out of our research this year is those reps that outperform ruthlessly disqualify. So the industry's built most of the targeting segmentation methodologies on coverage and frequency planning, and they've been more biased towards making sure we're spending face time with customers. What we see high performers doing is spending a lot of time understanding the likelihood or the probability that healthcare professional would lift their prescribing under certain conditions, and if the answer to that question is no or probably not, actually reducing coverage and frequency in favour of other healthcare professionals where the growth opportunity is really significant. And we haven't been that kind of clinical, if I can say that ruthless around what's the highest and best use of my time as a representative historically, and those that perform well really do that well. So that'd be something I'd be urging all salespeople to think about, but particularly in pharma where we're got a little bit of a blind spot. And then at the first line sales manager level, it's a very difficult role. It's probably the most complex role in most complex organisations, and it's one person wearing many hats. And ironically, we find that in pharma, the title might be sales manager, but often the last thing they're actually doing is managing sales. So bringing performance to front of mind around why are reps achieving or not achieving the way that they do, and having a very clear and definitive plan that's individually relevant for that rep based on how they are performing is a great and immediately actionable opportunity for all pharma companies.
So you're obviously talking about two recent pieces of work there, but I'm very interested in taking a look ahead if we can, based on sort of trajectory, I guess you could say, of some of the knowledge you've built up. What could you say would be the priorities for the future, given that the nature of sales is fast changing, and the nature of the customer and who the customer even is so fast changing? Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely getting harder. The competition for access, time and advocacy is increasingly challenging. I think as there's generational change in the healthcare professional population, you'll see true dividend and value coming out of multi-channel marketing and a lot of the digital strategies that are in play today. But that's a long burn, and it's a strategy you've got to be in today but you'll yield value from in the future. In the meantime, your largest OPEX outside of R&D is still your direct field force. We've been saying for several years that the key focus is get back to basics, understand what makes the difference and really moves the sales needle, and being more effective in a limited number of areas around your direct field force is still a very direct path to success. So I think the convergence and divergence we're seeing at the moment is convergence around core things within your direct field force that make a difference. The divergence is really around investments in digital and multi-channel marketing, which all mature pharma companies are making at the moment to be well positioned with alternative low-cost channels for the future as the way doctors consume education and information varies and grows. So you kind of got to be effective today around the direct model and effective for tomorrow around the multi-channel model.
I could ask you 100 questions about the various ways in which managers should prioritise their resources over the next few years. We don't have time, unfortunately. Let me just put it into your court. If you were head of sales and marketing for a major global organisation today, what do you think you would prioritise first as the biggest change that really needs to happen now?
I think there's really 5 things I'd suggest in very quick succession. Firstly, you've got to get goal and role clarity. I think we've lost sight of the fact that success at the rep level is demonstrating the ability to grow your territory at a quicker rate than the market year on year. So number 1 is an absolute focus on market share growth, and territory compound annual growth is the ultimate measure of success. When you're really clear and crisp on that, you're able to gear your incentive and reward framework to legitimately give positive consequences to those people that are capable of doing that, and actually allocate your bonus pool really based on those that are making a genuine difference versus those that aren't. So an incentive framework with teeth would be the second recommendation I'd suggest people adopt. The third thing that becomes clear when you've got both of those mechanisms in place is an ability to performance manage based on who's generating legitimate financial outcomes and those that isn't. We often say to our pharma clients that pharma is generally soft on performance and soft on the people, and it's important to be tighter and a little harder on performance without actually diminishing the experience of people within the industry. So you can have your cake and eat that a little bit too. And then lastly, we see a lot of benefit in tightening up in 2 key areas: whether or not people see value and virtue in the underlying segmentation and targeting model. It's a very, very important driver of representative salesforce effectiveness, as they see that they're spending time and focusing on the sorts of customers that can generate that market share growth. So you've got to have a connect around that. And lastly, you want to be enabling people to have value-adding doctor or buyer-focused conversations in their face-to-face interactions. So the area of the linear, detail-focused face-to-face interaction is over, and we've got to set our reps up to have a richer, a deeper and a more value-based conversation with doctors.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. I know a lot of work goes into those insights, and I really appreciate you sharing them with us today.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thanks, Paul.